What if you could build a thriving business without working around the clock? In this episode, I'm breaking down what the One Fifth Club is, how it was born, and why this simple concept can help high achieving, fun loving women entrepreneurs like you reclaim your time without giving up on income or impact. If you're tired of over delivering and under living, this episode and podcast is for you. All right. I am so excited. Hello, y'all. It is LaToya here. And I just want to welcome you to this first episode of the One Fifth Club podcast. And I'm so excited for this because, to be honest, I I had a podcast before, and I think I had it for like a year, but it was your typical business podcast, and it wasn't me. And so I have been wanting to restart my podcast or start a new podcast for I think almost 2 years now, which is kind of crazy. That's probably a story for another day. But either way, I've been wanting to do it. And so we're finally here, and I'm so excited for this podcast to support you on your journey, to get to know you, to build connections. Like, I'm all that, like, I'm just excited for all of that. And so in today's episode, I really do want to talk about like where the One Fifth Club came from and why I believe that this is the shift that we all need to make and that can totally change how we show up in our businesses forever. Yes, I know. Dramatic, but true. Okay. So today I'm just going to share a little bit of, how the One Fifth Club came to be. But before we do that, so I had a whole dramatic thing that I was going to do. And of course, technology was not on my side earlier, but I'm going to mix up a little bevy to celebrate. Let me just add my ice. I have it in this like thermos. It was a little hard to get out. And then let me pour a little. I already had some in my glass, but and I can't show you what I'm drinking because I don't have any sponsors for this podcast yet. Okay. So until we do that, we won't be showing anything. Oh, and so to that point, if you like YouTube, you definitely want to follow this podcast on YouTube at It's LaToya Williamson, because I'm going to be showing you behind the scenes, and you can also listen wherever you listen to podcasts. Okay. So now that that's out of the way, let me get a little drinky drink. By the way, look at this glass. How cute is this? I was looking at my other screen over here, but how cute is this? My old boss gave us these as a wedding present. So like 6 years ago. They're so pretty. Look at that gold detail on the bottom. I love it. Anyway, so I got a little something, something. And we're going to chat. Okay. So, One Fifth Club. So, 1/5 represents 20%. And so if you've ever heard like the 80-20 rule when it comes to business, when it comes to delegating, right? I wanted to do something along those lines of working less and living more. And what if you could show up 20% in your business and still live life, still have a profitable business, and still do all the things that you want to do, right? Like, wouldn't that be amazing? And I felt the need to really start this movement, if you will, because when I started my business 100 years ago, okay, maybe not 100, but many years ago, I started it because I had left corporate at this point, and But, to be honest, I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur because I wanted freedom. I wanted more control. And when I worked in corporate, I saw how things can be mapped out for you. And I just saw how oftentimes you don't have a lot of control, even if you're in a leadership role, right? You just don't have the control. And maybe that's the control freak in me. Maybe that's the perfectionist in me. I don't know. Maybe that's the smart mouth in me. I don't know, but I knew that I'm probably not going to be a good employee for long. And I definitely am not a good employee to just anybody, right? I was fortunate enough to have like a really great boss for most of my time in corporate. But yeah, there were moments where things were a little challenging. And, you'll learn all about those experiences as we get into some of these episodes here on the podcast. So anyway, I wanted to become an entrepreneur because I was looking for more freedom, and I was looking for more control, and I was looking for more flexibility and options, right? Like, I feel like we all started our businesses that way, especially those of us that came into entrepreneurship intentionally, right? Some of us, you kind of fell into it, right? But for those of us that intentionally said, I want to become an entrepreneur, that those are a lot of the benefits that you wanted to receive. And hopefully your main mission is to help people, right? And so that was my thing. Like I wanted these things for myself, but more importantly, I wanted it for you, for the business owner, the woman, the CEO that is trying to change lives all on her own, trying to do it all on her own. And so that was that's my mission, right? And I know how taxing it is on us when you just work, and you don't live. You don't leave time for downtime. You don't leave time for the spa day, for the sit on the couch and read a book day, for staying in the bed until noon day, like I did today. And I know how important that is, right? And I want us as women to really start to lean into the working less and living more. And like, especially from when I started my journey as an entrepreneur, I thought I was going to get all those things. I thought that I was going to get the flexibility. I thought that I was going to get the options and the quality of life that I truly wanted. And then reality set in. And I realized that entrepreneurship is just as exhausting as the 9-to-5 job that I had, if not worse. Because I don't know about you, but I literally think about my business probably like 24/7. And not intentionally, it's just my brain. That's how my brain works. That's how I come up with ideas, right? I could be outside, going for a walk, and I'm going to have ideas for my business, or I'm going to see something on TV and be like, ooh, that would be a great idea for my client, right? Like, that's just how my brain works, right? So I'm never turned off from my business. Like, obviously I have boundaries in place, but yeah, I mean, when I first started though, when you out here trying to make that money, I was going all in, and it was a lot, and it took a lot out of me. And I was knocking on burnout's door. I was knocking on fatigue, right? Like, I was just like, okay, I can't keep going like this, because sometimes in your business, it's hard to see where the end is because you're constantly building, right? So it's like, okay, I can push when I know there's an end in sight. Like, okay, I'm working on a project. We're going to be hot and heavy for the next 3 months, or we're going to be hot and heavy for these next 2 weeks. But when you talk about year after year after year, no, honey, no, something's got to give. I can't go like that. I've been there when I worked my corporate job, and we always had deadlines and everything had to be done yesterday, or better yet, 2 days ago, right? Like, we were always behind. And so I didn't want to build that into my business. And when I first started out, the first couple of years in my business, that's what I felt. That's where I was going. And I had to stop. I had to say, nope, We're going to have to slow things down because I can't go like this. And it just like I don't know about you, but if you've ever worked in corporate, you probably understand if I say that you had a little PTSD from corporate. And I know I did. And I remembered there was a time that was kind of like a real turning point for me in my corporate career where I wasn't working for my manager that I had that I loved, who gave me these glasses. These glasses, I wasn't working for them. I was working for someone else, but there was a situation where I had gotten sick. And like I've been prone to upper respiratory infections my whole life. I was a preemie, and I think that my respiratory system has always been weak. And so I often would get upper respiratory infections. It would turn into bronchitis. I would be sick for months, like it would linger on for months, right? And commuting into work, being in cold air, being around people that smoke on the street, like there would be all these different triggers for me. So I had to be very careful. But anyway, so I ended up getting sick, and I still came to work. I was an executive assistant at the time. I had a huge team. I think it was a team of like 20 people or something like that. And I was like the only admin on the team. And so I remembered I was working, and I don't even know if I was working on a project, but I was always working on something. I don't think it was like a big project, but regardless, I didn't feel well, and I came into the office. Now, mind you, I live in Northwest Indiana. I was working downtown Chicago. So it was like a 40-mile drive, but I was super sick, and I was like, okay, but I need to come get my laptop. So I came into the office to get my laptop. I drug myself into the office. When I say I drug, like there was a point that I felt so bad when I got to the office that I was like leaning on the wall, kind of like sliding down the wall, trying to walk to my desk, to my cubicle. And because I could barely keep myself up. I was so short of breath. Like, I was like trying to catch my breath and like walking, trying to get to my desk. Okay. And I remember like I wasn't planning on staying all day, but I was like, okay, I drove all the way here. It was probably like an hour, 15 minutes, something like that. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to waste an hour and 15 minutes. Plus I got to drive an hour back. Right. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to stay at least a half a day. And spoiler alert, that did not happen because I could not make it. Like I felt like it was an elephant on my chest. And I got my laptop, and I was like, I'm just going to have to go back home. I don't remember my manager being in the office. And yeah, no, they weren't in the office because I remembered when I finally got home, I ended up emailing them later, but I got home finally, got my laptop, drug myself back to my car in the parking lot, drove all the way back home. And at this time I was living in my apartment. I got up my 6 steps, like trying to pull myself up those 6 steps. I was hanging on the railing trying to get up there back into my apartment. And I remember calling my mom, and I was just like, I need you to take me to the hospital. Cause I was like, I don't know. I think something like, I can't make it. Like, I feel like I can't breathe, And so ended up going to urgent care and found out I didn't have pneumonia, but it was very close to being pneumonia. If I hadn't have went when I did, it probably could have turned into pneumonia. And so my doctor had put me, gave me all the medications, the antibiotics, the inhaler, like the cough medicine. I had a breathing treatment. And so I remember that, finally made it back home, and I just fell out on the couch, right? Like I was just like, ugh. But I still emailed my manager to let them know what was going on because my doctor had decided to put me on bed rest. And so I was on bed rest for like a week, in 2 weeks, like, but for sure a week. But she was like, if you don't get better, it's going to be 2 weeks. So I'm like, okay. She like, sit your butt down. I'm like, okay, I'm not going anywhere. And I remembered that my manager was like, oh yeah, like LaToya's sick, and I don't know, like, they send a message to the team, like, you know, like, if she's working on something for you, like, I don't know how she's gonna get it done since she's not in the office, like trying to make it like like I'm lazy or something, like I tried to get sick, like, I don't want to be sick, just like you don't want me to be sick, and not because you care about me, but because of the work. But either way, we both don't want me to be sick, just for different reasons, right? And I just remembered that experience, and it really stuck with me because it was like, man, I don't want to. That was part of the reason why I was like, I can't just work for anybody, because if I get another manager that's like this, that don't care about me, how am I going to do my job? Because I'm definitely very much like, if you treat me well, I'm going to do for you. And the better you treat me, the more I'm going to do for you. Like, that's just how I am. Okay. Whatever, And so that experience really stuck with me. And that was one of the catalysts that started me thinking, like, yeah, it's getting closer and closer to the time for me to go out on my own. And I just, when I think about that experience, and then fast forward to me being in my own business, it's like, am I going to treat myself like that manager treated me when I'm sick? Am I going to still show up for my business and show up in my business and push through, knowing dang on well I don't feel well, knowing dang on well I'm not at my best, right? Like, no, I should not be doing. Like, if you were trying to say, well, no, no, you deserve to be able to be sick. You deserve to be able to have downtime. You deserve to be able to take care of yourself, because just like they say on the plane, put your mask on first before you help somebody else, right? So we're creating businesses that are just like the job that some of us ran away from, or the managers. We're being the manager to ourselves that some of us hated. I know I'm using a strong word, but come on now, let's be real. And that's why I'm like, no, this is why the 1/5 club mindset and way of thinking about your business and building your business is so important, right? Because most of us as entrepreneurs end up in that cycle of time for money, or money is time, right? Even if you're making good money, you still feel chained to your business. You still feel obligated to your clients, even if you're not your best, right? And I don't want that for you. And especially as like us as women that are doing well, or that we have like a lot of integrity, and we think about our reputation. Like, I have a reputation to uphold. I am the best, and I have to be the best, and I have a certain level of excellence that I deliver to my clients, and I will not, like, I have to make sure that I respond to them in 24 hours. If they send me a message, I gotta respond right away. If I'm taking time off, I'm gonna take my laptop because something might happen and I have to be there for those clients. You're acting like that manager that wouldn't even give me time off to be sick, that was trying to make me feel guilty about being sick. Yes, you heard what I said. So let's not do that. Like, let's not be that to ourselves. And it starts with, now this is where my pitch comes in. It's not really a pitch, but I'm just telling you so you can know the kind of work that I do. That's where your offers comes in. Because like, when I started thinking about the offers that I wanted to create in my business, obviously I started off with one-on-ones, right? Most of us do. For me, I'm a service provider. I have retainers. You might be a coach, and so therefore you have coaching packages where you work with your clients one-on-one, right? But that's only going to get you so far, right? I can only work for a certain number of retainer clients at a time before I've overdone it and now I'm burnt out, right? But if I'm thinking about the 80-20 rule, or let's just say the 20%, I'm not going to only have retainers, because that's not going to allow me to only work 20%. Because even if I have a couple of good retainer clients, they could leave at any time, which I have an upcoming episode that I'm talking about that, where I literally break down and tell you what happened when I had a client that canceled their contract. So stay tuned for that episode. But it's like, you don't want to build your business relying on one or two clients, even if you're charging a lot, right? Even if it's getting you to the coveted 10K months or the coveted 6-figure years, right? You don't want that revenue to be so closely tied to one or two people's decision to work with you. So in order to get to the 1/5 club and to get to the working less and living more, it's going to start with what you're offering. It starts by shifting your offers, and then your operations, and then maybe your team. And so you have to take ownership of that mindset of like, okay, how can I best serve myself and my clients? But you have to be first. And this isn't just about having passive income or passive revenue streams in your business. It's strategy, right? Because as solopreneurs, we're not a big corporation like a Pepsi or a Nike or an Apple, Starbucks, whatever. Like, we're not a big corporation like that. So we have to be strategic in how we spend our time. And I'm going to say this, and I'll talk about it in another episode that I have coming up, where we'll really start talking about what your offers, how you should be positioning your offers. But as a solopreneur, as a CEO of your own business, and you're offering one-on-ones, that should be your premium priced offer, which means that not everybody gets to work with the CEO one-on-one. So if you're only offering packages and retainers where they get to work with you one-on-one, or even somebody on your team, because I know some of y'all is like, okay, well, I have an agency. I had agency too. We'll talk about it, but I had agency too. And you're still capping your revenue. Okay. So that's what the 1/5 club is all about. That we're shifting our mindset on how we work and how we serve so that we can live more. The 1/5 club isn't about doing less just for the sake of it. It's about doing the right things that will truly let you lead your business, lead your life, lead your audiences and your legacy, and doing it all on your own terms. So if you've ever said, I just want to work less without losing the momentum, then this is where we start. And I really want to help you on your journey. And I can't wait to share more about this business model and this mindset from the 1/5 club. And I really want this to be a movement. I want it to be a 1/5 club lifestyle. And I know that we can do this. And I know that, it's definitely going to change lives. It's definitely going to change your business. And I'm here for it. And I hope you are too. So make sure to follow me on Instagram at LaToya K. Williamson. And you can sign up for my email list. Get on the list at LaToyaWilliamson.com. That's where I send a lot of my exclusive content, behind the scenes of like the podcast and just bonus episodes. Like, that's where I just pour into it. Like, I think about my list as like when I worked in corporate, and like my friends, like, my coworkers, my peers, like, if I came across something that I thought was helpful, I would just send it to them. Like, hey, I saw this and I'm going to send it to you. Let me know what you think, or if you use it, or, whatever. Like, we help each other. And that's how I'm building the list. And so, yeah, so you want to be on it. I'm just saying, you want to be on the list of the 1/5 club. So thank you for being here with me. I'm so excited for this. This first episode and so many more. Yeah, this is going to be what, therapeutic, cathartic. Like, this is as much for me as it is for you. So, welcome to the One Fifth Club. Mm-mm. It's dripping.